Welcome back to my new guide series where I share the most essential tips to know in Digimon World Next Order. My name is Mr. Wolfie, and hopefully at this point you've already seen guide number 1, which shared an introductory overview of the game and talked you guys through 15 essential tips to know when getting started. Now you're here for guide 2, we can have a look at 15 more advanced tips. These are a bit more applicable than some of the info shared in the first video and ultimately aim to make you a bit more efficient as you start to find your feet. My final video, guide number 3, is an updated training spot video for getting insane stats in the game, which I will link at the end of this vid. As always, your time is valuable guys, so let's get straight into guide number 2. One of the first ways to improve in Next Order is to understand that your own Digimon will gain much more XP when fighting opponents above their own Digivolution rank. For example, if you have two rookie partners, battling against champion level enemies or above will give you much more XP points. It can often be challenging to beat the bigger monsters, but if you can sustain through a few fights, your stat gains will normally be immense. Conversely, if you use big Digimon and fight against lower tiered enemies, your XP gains will be pretty much non-existent. More on this topic in my third guide regarding training spots, but for now, know that it pays to fight the bigger foes if you can. In order to progress in the story, we typically want to be training against enemies in the overworld. However, in order to survive these battles, we will need a healthy supply of recovery items, which in turn cost money. Around Nine Plains, you can endlessly forage items that will frequently sell for 50 to 200 bits, and in the early game, I always harvest as much of these as I can in order to sell the surplus back to the town shopkeeper. Duty and Dozy fruit will sell for 150, baby strawberries will sell for 250, and cob fruit will sell for 250. If you manage to save up an extra supply of medicine, you can also sell these for 1250, which will be insane for your early game economy. Just make sure that you speak to Koromon every day for a chance to receive this. Finally, coriander, this little red weed that you see on screen here, grows in the desert and sells for a whopping 1500, so keep an eye out. If you're bored of foraging but are still low on cash, fishing can also be a hassle-free way of generating money early on. Time will pass when you fish, but at least the fish won't kill you. Not physically anyway. The most common fish you'll find around the starting area is Digifry, which sells for 100 bits. However, be sure to be on the lookout for Digitrout and Black Digitrout, which sell for 400 and 800 bits respectively. You will not be able to fish immediately, however you will receive the fishing rod when you recruit Wormmon from the forest path in Nine Plains. For you late game players, I have an entire video dedicated to fishing in Next Order, which of course, as always, you guys can find linked in the description. In the beginning of the game, if you are going to train in the town gym, I normally prioritise putting effort into HP and speed. Obviously you can do as you please, but I personally find that HP is king in the early game as it will reduce the likelihood of you getting injured or even one-shot during battles. After this, I normally choose to train up speed as this will improve the rate at which your Digimon attack. This is important because more frequent attacks will provide you more opportunities to stack command points and thus end the fight with your player-controlled moves. Again, this tip comes down to personal preference, but you can do whatever pleases you the most. I've heard some players advocating for training Wisdom early as this attribute supposedly governs your crit rate, your guard chance, and reduces MP costs. This is my go-to strat, but be sure to share your own training choices in the comments. The block command in the Tamer tree is invaluable when training against stronger enemies and fighting bosses. This move will block most of the damage from enemy attacks and can also be upgraded later to block all of the incoming damage, even limit breaks. Because you have two Digimon in this game, it is often a good strategy to have one Digimon continuously block whilst you charge the order points of the other. When your limit break of your attacking Digi is ready, then let the enemy have it. This is definitely a slower method of training, but definitely safer and more consistent. One thing that new players may not know is that you can time your order command callouts for extra points in battle. Pushing the X button just as your Digimon lands an attack, or when taking an incoming attack, will provide you with a bonus. These points can then be used to cast your regular or ultimate moves to end the fight quicker. Typically, timed attacks give more order points than when you take damage, so I recommend prioritising this window. Simply wait for the attack to connect, and then hit the button. In battle, let your Digimon attack on their own and then immediately reset their attacks by using your action points. This is a good way of doubling up your damage quickly and ending fights much faster. Faster fights mean less damage taken and therefore less recovery items wasted. Typically, you would want to save up order points for your limit break, but if it looks like the fight is going to be over soon, then wait for your Digimon to attack and then instantly burn points for the quick damage reset. As an extra tip, you want to also try and use your 150 energy limit breaks together against tougher foes. For those of you that don't know, you can use both of your finisher moves at the same time for an extra chunk of damage. I believe that this is showcased in the tutorial, but some players may have missed it, and so I thought that it was worth mentioning. For that one enemy that has taken no damage, this might be a vital tool to help you break their guard or even get the knockout. At tip number 8, understand that ranged attacks are very powerful in the early game as they are far more reliable at connecting with the enemies. Typically, melee moves do hit hard, but they can also completely whiff, even when you're commanding the Digimon yourself. When in rookie form, ranged attacks are pretty welcoming and you should try to equip these when they are available. Early Next Order battles are already pretty deadly, so getting 1 or 2 Digimon using these can be crucial to your success. If you already have 2 Digis with ranged attacks, you're probably in a good spot to conquer some of the early areas. When you're out in the world, learn to pull enemies in order to fight them one at a time. Avoid groups of 2 or 3 as this will normally result in injury or death, especially when you're just beginning. Even if you can win, the stats gained from fighting groups of enemies isn't that much better than fighting singular Digimon. You might make some extra gains here and there, but the risk isn't often worth until you're stronger later on. Because of this then, it just makes sense to fight one at a time. Red enemies are often not to be messed with, but it doesn't always mean that victory is impossible. If you have a good supply of items, you don't always have to be super scared, however it is normally a good rule of thumb to be wary of these guys. It's worth noting that this red outline is a far better indicator of the enemy's power than the actual level above their heads. If you're fighting a particularly tough opponent, you might also see a caution sign flare up as you enter the battle, which is just another indicator that the game considers this enemy to be a challenge. On the plus side, if you do manage to beat said enemies, you will be rewarded with pretty good XP, and often they will no longer be marked as red after the fight is done. As a side tip, remember that enemies in the world will also get stronger at night, aka after 4 PM, so be careful of these guys as they will often be stronger and more aggressive. Increasing bond and fighting multiple battles in a row will allow you to start combat with a higher number of order points. In other words, instead of building up from 0 points each fight, you can begin on an increasingly higher threshold of points. This means that after enough battles, you can almost instantly cast your double limit break as soon as the fight begins. This will be essential for helping the grind go faster and thus save you a bunch of time later on. In order to continually stack this bond, you will have to be very fast when chaining consecutive fights together. Take even a few seconds and this bonus boost will start to deplete. Next up, it's worth noting that spamming recovery items in battle is often the norm for surviving in Next Order. It's not very glamorous, but make sure to carry enough heal recoveries and don't be scared to rapid throw them across the field. You might find this kind of gameplay feels gimmicky, but honestly it gets the job done. Sometimes having a machine gun quarterback arm will be the difference between story advancement or defeat. Don't be ashamed of this playstyle as the game necessitates it sometimes. If you get an ability used on you that your Digimon can learn, there is a slim chance that both of your partners will pick it up after the fight is finished. This is a random occurrence, but you can farm X enemy once you know that they possess a move that you want. Once you learn an attack, you will have it for all future Digimon, and although your next generation may not be able to wield it, the ability will still be in your archive. There is also a tamer skill to help you increase the odds of learning a move from enemies, and I would highly encourage you guys to pick this up early on if you can. New skills will do wonders for your strength levels, just make sure to be cautious of the higher mana costs attached to the more powerful moves. If your Digimon misbehave in the early game, it's okay to scold them. The only time you might not want to do this is if you're trying to keep a Digimon's discipline low, or you want to be an evil Sith Lord. However, in the beginning, I find it's better to simply scold when given the choice. If a Digimon tells you that he doesn't like food or tries to sleep in or whatever, then simply give him the death stare. Scolding can sometimes lead to your Digimon getting salty for a short while, but the long-term benefits are normally worth it. Keeping your Digis in line will prevent them from rebelling again in the future and also reduce the time wasted from tantrums. Once your Digimon gain more discipline, they are also more likely to encourage each other, which can lead to extra Digivolution info, happiness boosts, etc. When collecting materials out in the world, you can only carry a certain amount of mind resources in your backpack. However, if you want to collect more before heading back to the city, you can actually deposit materials by camping in the tent. If you're at the stage where you don't have enough money to be constantly jetting all over the place, this can be a really useful tool for min-maxing your farming expeditions. The tent can be used a few times in a row and will also let you rest and cook if you want to. In order to get the tent, you'll need to help Greymon in the server desert after some story progression in Chapter 2. As a couple of last minute bonus tips, right now, as it stands, when being chased by enemy Digimon, you can actually cheese the game slightly by opening the in-game menu to slow the wild Digis down. Bringing up the main menu will temporarily cause running enemies to stop, which can let you gain a few milliseconds of time. Doing this repeatedly will almost always guarantee that the maniacs behind you don't catch up. Again, this tip might not be as valuable now that we have a legit run feature in the game, however who knows when this mechanic could save your bacon. Lastly, just remember to save often. Next Order is a game that loves to blast you in the nads, and it will do so regularly. To make matters even more spicy, there is no autosave feature in the game, thus be sure to save regularly and avoid the tragedy of a midnight mental boom. Remember, missing a scheduled Digivolution can just be as painful as losing a fight, so make sure to make a couple of backup files and space them out if possible. This is certainly the most redundant tip in our list, but it is defo the one that will save you the most headaches in the long run. And that is it for guide number 2, folks. As always with the educational videos, not all of these tips are going to be a home run, but if I was able to teach one person at least one useful thing, then that is a win for me. Guide number 3 is up next, so if you would like a brand new training spots video showing you effective locations for becoming an absolute weapon, then feel free to check that out. I have been Jack, aka Mr. Wolfie, and I have had a blast throwing these videos together recently. Thanks for all the love and support as always, gang. Peace out, and I'll see you next time.